All right, welcome back, church. Real quick, I want to talk about the helmet of salvation. I know I mentioned before earlier in the last video that the items and orders that is given in Scripture for the armor of God starts with the belt of truth, and I think it does rightfully so. However, I'm going to try to attempt to unpack the helmet of salvation for you first. Like I stated before, when I ran my Royal Rangers Ministries and I spoke to the boys, we started with salvation first. And there was a specific reason for that, and I kind of want to talk about the whys and the impacts, and hopefully a practical application of what that is and what that looks like now. All right. So we understand, hopefully for the most part, overview that we're at war. All right. There's spiritual warfare. We're kind of late offspring into it. But the contested battleground are hearts and minds, right? God is a God of territories. The powers, the principalities, all the spiritual wickedness, all the heavenly host contest for territories. But the highest key terrain, or the most valuable territory, is hearts and minds. All right, so this is why I talk about the helmet of salvations first. Right, is what that does is it secures your RSVP, helps you get into the kingdom, to believe on the Jesus Christ. Hopefully you'll follow on with a baptism in your testimony for rituals. Is important. I do believe it is very important and necessary to a degree. If that is the case and you've done that, let's talk about what that piece of armor is going to do for you. So if you spent any time in a martial, whether you're light infantry or whether you're mechanized infantry, you have the helmet. The helmet is designed to protect your dome piece, specifically from artillery, right? Shrapnel. All right, so as the rules go with the modern warfare, tanks conquer, troops occupy, and artillery kills. All right, so we want to hopefully save you from the fiery darts that I know the shield takes on as well. But specifically your dome piece, all right, protecting your mind. All right, the mind is generally where the soul is housed, or at least the evidences of it. The heart is the hole in the man, but the mind is what makes you you, as far as your soul is concerned. Your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, the way that you think, the way that you reason. Without that, without the nefesh that's prescribed, that is created by God and given to you at the point of conception, you're just a meat suit. All right, so we want to be more than a meat suit. We want to be the master of our minds. We want to be independent. We do not want to be controlled. We don't want to be manipulated. And that is what the helmet is for. So if you like conspiracy theories, think of the tinfoil hat. That's essentially armor for all the expressed concerns for frequencies, vibrations, light waves, things of that nature that may affect you with a negative impact. So let's talk about that. Specifically with your brain, involuntary thoughts, involuntary inceptions. All right? There are things that we're judged for. We're judged for every good and evil thing. We're judged for every word that we speak. And we're also judged for the secret things. A lot of the secret things can be acts, but they can also be thoughts. Right? A carnal mind puts you in enmity with God, makes you an enemy of God. So if you're thinking things that aren't correct or right, then you are contending with God again. You're wrestling with Him. And God doesn't mind wrestling with you, all right? He wants you to wrestle with Him. He wants you to work it all out. Work out your salvation and have that conscience. He doesn't make dummies. All right, so that being said, that's what you're protecting yourself up from. You can read an example through the Kings and the Chronicles where King David had some recent military victories against the Philistines, and then finally killing the Amorite king, the last of the giant kings, taking his crown, weighing 70 talents, or I'm sorry, a talent of gold, which is the equivalent of 70 pounds. All right, so he was doing really well against the physical offspring of the serpent, and because of that, it said that Satan stood against him. All right, just standing against him caused him to have involuntary thoughts, involuntary emotions. Specifically, he moved him to do a census on Israel, to number the army and know what he had at his disposal. this was a problem. It caused him to step out of the blessings and into the curses, all right? It pulled him in disobedience. So the adversary can't directly get to you. He can't curse that which God has blessed, so he's got to pull you into disobedience, and that's what he did. Right? Joab was the commander of the army at the time. He said, whatever it is, let it be multiplied. But why do you require this thing? And nevertheless, the word of the king prevailed, and so Joab did it. He did it spitefully. He did not number the Levites, but he produced it for him, and so judgment then followed. All right, so Satan pulled him into disobedience, so that God would punish David, and he didn't just punish David; he punished all of Israel for that. The account in there basically is a which would you rather, choose your punishment. There was 3 different options. It was famine, defeat, or plague and pestilence, I think. You might have to read and dig. You should always read and test. But this is an example in Scripture as to what that can do. David himself, throughout the Psalm, says to guard your heart, which is your whole being. But it starts with the mind, right? In order to combat that, you have to have a mindset, right? You have to have a general approach to life. And if you understand that you're in a fight and you're in a warrior mindset, and you're ready to start pushing back rather than just surviving or just defending, you had to have a warrior mindset. We are all called to be commissioners, ambassadors, and we're also meant to war with the kingdom, right? God doesn't want couch potatoes, right? He doesn't want laissez-faire. There are martyrs and things out there in that nature. I won't get into archetypes and things of that nature, and I don't know how much real estate I put into that, but it is an observation and an evidence. However, we're all called to war in the Spirit, which is prayers and things of that nature. So continually spend time in your Word, watching in the Word, understanding the truth of things, but have a mindset. And now, let me give you an example of what that can mean and how that translates into the physical. So part of my mother's testimony, being born with me at such an early age, was because she had me so young, she wasn't quite really developed for that, all right? And it created problems. She had lots of problems. Part of the problems was a negative Rh factor in the blood. This was before the RhoGAM shot to help counter it. It's not a natural thing for mothers to attack their wombs. That's an evidence of serpent seed and manipulation in genes and things of that nature. But anyway, fortunately enough, she had a nurse that just came out of school, and she recognized what was going on. And she sat down with her. She couldn't hold food. She kept throwing up. She's like, look, here, take a look at this sonogram. You see that? That's your baby, right? That's a life. If you want to survive through this, you need to hold down your food, right? That was just one obstacle that was laid before her, right? The nausea setting in, nothing to help counter it, right? Another aspect was abortion was on the table, right? I was already talked about being killed before I got here, right? Now, here's what comes in that's interesting. Because of my mother's faith-based background, regardless of what denominations it was, she had a mindset. And that mindset was, I would rather die trying, all right? And because of that mindset, she was able to pull through with both of us, even though I was stuck for days on end, to come out. And we both survived, right? God saw it, He honored it, and if He wants you here, He'll get you here, right? Of course, there's free will. Of course, you can be killed off. You can die in the process. We all know the risk that females take in birthing and things in general. There's a general physical risk and everything that's involved. But because of that mindset, she was able to persevere, right? Through suffering, through trials, through tribulations. And had she not done that, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. So that's an idea of mindset. So think of that, 3 basic principles, right? Be the master of your own mind. Control your thoughts. Don't be in enmity with God. Don't be a carnal mind. Try to purify those thoughts. Reverse that. Guard your thoughts, right? If there's something that you've been led to supernaturally to think of things, and sometimes you might think it's your messed up self. I don't think there's any coincidences. Let it be a red flag and a warning to you. And then have the mindset, a preconceived notion of how you're going to approach life in general, and what does it amount to, all right? Does it produce death or does it produce life? Alright, this is all I have for you today. I look forward to getting with you the next time. Have a good evening in church.